2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday the 10th of October and it's World Mental Health Day. And a big happy birthday to Marina Diamandis, Dan Stevens, Charles Dance and Chris Tarrant. The weekend saw the Scottish National Party's annual conference take place in Aberdeen, and thoughts of Scottish independence remain firmly on the agenda. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says her government has plans ready to go for a second independence referendum if the Supreme Court gives it the go-ahead. The court will hear arguments this week before ruling if Holyrood has the power to stage another breakaway vote. Speaking to the BBC, the Scottish First Minister hit out at the UK government's continuing opposition to another referendum.
My options are limited, which, obviously is the case to some extent, and that is because Scotland is in a system, and we face a Westminster system that simply will not respect Scottish democracy. Asked
by the BBC's Laura Kusenberg if Liz Truss was a friend or foe, Sturgeon said she would like to be a friend to the Prime Minister and work together constructively. But what does she think of the Tories in general?
The question to me is, would I prefer a Labour government over a Tory government? I detest the Tories and everything they stand for, so it's not difficult to answer that question. Being better than the Tories is not a high bar to cross right now.
Ms Sturgeon later clarified that she was referring to Tory policies and values that do a lot of damage. Cabinet Minister Nadhim Zahawi wasn't too impressed with her choice of words.
I think that language is really dangerous. I prefer to work with my colleagues in Scotland on delivering the free ports, the green ports.
As the pressure on new Prime Minister Liz Truss remains intense, senior Tories on Team Truss are urging the party to unite. Nadhim Zahawi and 3 other cabinet ministers all wrote articles for Sunday papers calling on Conservatives to rally behind the PM. She's just over a month into the job, but there's already been policy U-turns and infighting. Meanwhile, the government's defended its decision to scrap a £14 million energy public information campaign. Zahawi says it's very unlikely supplies will drop enough for there to be blackouts this winter.
I'm confident that the resilience is there, that people can enjoy their Christmas and feel that their government is behind them, helping them with their energy bills.
Former Chancellor Alistair Darling joined the conversation around the recent economic turmoil, claiming it self-inflicted.
And one of the things that worries me about what happened in the last couple of weeks or so is it appears to me that the government was not talking to the Bank of England, and it looks like the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee was completely blindsided about an announcement.
It was another dramatic weekend in Ukraine as an explosion damaged a crucial bridge that connects the annexed peninsula of Crimea to the Russian mainland. It happened on President Putin's birthday and he was not pleased, accusing Ukraine on Sunday night of attacking the bridge, saying it was an act of terrorism. Putin tightened security around it and will hold a meeting with his Security Council to discuss further action, according to a Kremlin spokesperson. Speaking to Times Radio, Freddie Haywood, political reporter at New Statesman, said Crimea wasn't even in play at the start of the war.
Also last month we had airstrikes on Crimea from Ukraine, so we're seeing the ratcheting up of pressure on Crimea, which is another example of Ukraine making progress.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials claim at least 14 people have died and more than 70 were injured following shelling in the city of Zaporizhzhia. And Robert Fox, defence editor at the Evening Standard, said we must take the threat of Putin using chemical weapons seriously.
At the moment, they're in total denial of the scale of the defeat in Ukraine, and we now have to call it a defeat. And that, I think, when it sinks home, could have very terrible consequences.
Protests are continuing in Iran almost 4 weeks since Mahsa Amini died whilst in the custody of the morality police. The 22-year-old had been detained for allegedly breaking laws around wearing the hijab. Iranian state TV was briefly interrupted by an apparent hack at the weekend. A mask appeared on the screen, followed by an image of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei with flames around him and people chanting "Women, Life, Freedom." Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, a British-Iranian woman who was held in the country for 6 years, has urged the UK government to act over human rights abuses.
So in many of the cases, they do not actually come back alive. And I think the world cannot turn a blind eye. This is just not acceptable.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Max Verstappen's crowned Formula 1 champion for a second time, and Jennifer Lawrence steps back into the spotlight right after this. Welcome back.
3,
Max Verstappen is the 2022 Formula One world champion after winning a rain-hit Japanese Grand Prix. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc dropped to third, handing the Dutchman the world title after he was penalised for going off the track on the final lap. It was a chaotic race with drivers furious that a recovery vehicle was on the track midway through. French driver Jules Bianchi died in a crash at the Suzuka circuit 8 years ago when he lost control and hit a tractor. And after a confusing finish, this was the moment Johnny Herbert revealed to Max Verstappen that he was world champion.
Well, what can I say? Incredible, of course. Yeah, very special also to do it here in front of all the Honda people, all the Japanese fans. Incredible.
Jennifer Lawrence returns to her independent roots for her new film Causeway, where she plays a soldier struggling with PTSD. The Apple TV Plus movie marks the Hollywood star's debut as a producer and will be released on November the 4th. Speaking at the BFI London Film Festival on Saturday, she talked about her break from acting.
It was pretty wild to make a movie and then take a 2-year hiatus, have time to sit with the movie, see it in the edit, and then come back with such different perspective. I started the film when I was engaged. I came back married and pregnant, and I personally had such a different perception of staying and of home, and that was so fun, especially when informing the ending.
Louis Theroux's getting up close and personal with some of the most iconic names in the entertainment industry for a new series of Louis Theroux interviews. The trailer just dropped for the new 6-parter, which promises to dive into the careers and personal lives of people like Dame Judi Dench, Youngblood and Bear Grylls. Oh, and this massive star.
Is it this way to Stormzy?
I wanted to meet you for so long.
Yeah, me too.
Louis? Well, I didn't mean the first one.
As if Louis Theroux was in Dolly. I'm so excited right now.
I'm going to sound really Oprah Winfrey now.
That's cool.
This has been The Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.